watching Thrifty Kaniffy. Hello everyone and welcome to Thrifty Kaniffy. We're taking a look at two different Rough Riders today. This is the first one. This is the older style box with the oval, the horse inside. And this is model number RR086. And there's your barcode. And that is this particular knife, the amber jig bone large Coke bottle from Rough Ryder. And then the second knife is essentially the same pattern, RR145. This is in the 10-year box, also with that RI spelling on the box. And I call it the 10-year box because it denotes that this is 10 years of Rough Ryder. And we're looking at this particular Coke bottle, the white smooth bone, for this box. Alright, so the RR145 is this lower one here, and this is the RR086. There are a couple of small differences between these two knives, although I'm not sure it's completely intentional. I'm not 100% certain. But if you look at the top edge of this Coke bottle, you can see it's not nearly as pronounced in the center. Like the swell center at the top is not pointed at all. Whereas if you look at this one, does have a little more of a pronounced ridge there. So I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, but both of these knives are very reminiscent of the old popular Winchester 1920 model, model 1920. And the swell center folding hunter was a pretty popular knife in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and this was pretty much standard fare back then. You would have just a large clip point blade, often a saber grind like this one. And they measured like, the blade measured like 4 1/4 inches. And then the handle length is just shy of 5 inches. This one is 4 7/8. Both of these 4 7/8. And they have the same style blade on them. So they're just folding hunters and the Coke bottle frame. Again, pretty popular model in the late 1800s, or yes, the late 1800s, early 1900s. So this is based on a traditional pattern. Now, one thing that is different about this Rough Ryder make is that they've increased the height of the bolster so that when in the closed position it hides the tang there. You don't have that elbow poking you as you're trying to put it in your rear pocket, poking you in the rear. And it's just a small improvement, I think, over the more traditional style Coke bottles. But they do make Coke bottles that are more symmetrical than these, that basically look exactly like a Coke bottle. But you can tell these are not exactly symmetrical. There's a little bit of an unevenness to where the swell is, so they may not be the best example of what you would call a Coke bottle, but these are swell center folding hunters. Now this one is in amber jig bone, and you get the cigar shield here with the script written there. Again, this is one of my favorite handle materials that Rough Ryder uses. So being able to get a knife in this size is kind of nice because you get a whole lot of that amber jig bone, and then it polishes up really nice. Now the difference in the nail nicks is a little evident on the two. This one you have a little more broader ridges on it than the other that has a much more narrow style match strike pull on it. But this one also doesn't seem to be quite as pronounced at the top as this one does. So again, minor difference, but I think they're intentionally supposed to be the same pattern. This one also has a blade etch. It says always ready, and you have a Rough Ryder logo there inside a horseshoe. You've got the horseshoe tang stamp on this one, and then the model number on the back. is missing. It just says 440 razor sharp steel, and you've got China etched into the top edge of the blade here. But nice long saber ground clip point blade. There's a good look at the edge there. Not exactly the most perfect grind on it, but you can see it kind of narrows at the tip. But not exactly as even as you'd like to maybe see it either on both sides. But it does appear to be pretty sharp. You have a pretty good tip on this. As far as practicality, I'd have to say that, obviously this is not going to be one of my favorites. Pull on this is probably around a 5 to 5.5. So the confidence using a blade in that size without a lock is certainly not my favorite style of knife. But I do appreciate the tradition of this knife, and it is an actual knife that has some history to it. So for those reasons, I appreciate it for that. But in terms of being a carry and heavy user, probably not among the things and tasks that I would require. Much prefer to use something with a lock on it if I'm going to be using a blade of this size. But again, that clip point blade, it's about 4 1/4 inches long. There's no half tops on either of these. It's just sort of a lazy stop on both of them. But they also suffer a little bit, I think, from blade warp, so I don't want to be too drastic about closing that. But they do have a decent snap to them, both of them. But these are not a knife I think they produce anymore. They may still have some of the more common handles. I know this was also made in one of the favored handle materials that Rough Riders made, that saw cut bone that they did that was really nice. And that might be another that I pick up. But again, these are more just for looks. Don't intend to really collect just a whole ton of these, nor do I probably ever think I'll carry one. But more ornamental than practical, in my opinion. But I do appreciate the history of these and where they've come from. And if we can, let's just take a quick look at one of those Winchester knives so I can give you an example of a photo of it. Pull out my book here. And it's this knife right here. Here's the Winchester 1920. And you can tell that the swell in the middle is offset slightly. This one's a little more forward than the one on the bottom, and it's not quite as pronounced. So I think they were kind of taking from this particular handle and this model. And you can also see that it's a straight line at the top of the bolster and doesn't have that little hump in it, and you'll have that exposed blade there. So there's a good example of what it is I was talking about there. But pretty cool knives. Again, not for carry, but for show. And I'm glad I have these in my collection. I might actually add 1 or 2 more, just depending on what handle materials I can find. But that's going to do it for this review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, be made aware of new videos when they drop. You guys have a fantastic day. Take care.